he caught the ball and you were the defender, and you did not tackle him, is what that says. That's what it says.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Welcome to episode 76 of the Fly Route Podcast. I am your host, Anthony, a.k.a. Tony Playboy. Y'all got any AKAs for yourself today? What's good?
Just a.k.a. Keys. That's it today.
Sam, a.k.a. clamping your fly route.
All right. I'm with it. Look, we are going to get into the DBs this week. We're doing our consensus rankings like the past two episodes. We have all ranked the safeties and corners in the league and done a consensus total ranking. Our number one is a surprise to probably nobody.
Nobody. No way, no.
Yeah, it's a surprise to probably nobody. But, of course, Jaylen Ramsey with a combined score of 3, which means all three of us ranked him as the number one defensive back in the league.
Definitely. Easily.
Pretty easy. I mean, Jaylen Ramsey has been that dude. You know, some things that stuck out to me about Jaylen, I ain't going to lie, is that Jaylen actually gives up a good amount of the targets thrown his way.
I mean, I think
59% of the time that he's targeted, he gives up a completion.
I think it's those underneath routes, you know, where someone probably catches him because he doesn't really, other than like, you know, the tail end of the season last year where he was giving up big plays, you know, obviously Mike Evans and the Super Bowl and stuff. He doesn't normally, you won't get a big play on him. So I'm guessing it's like, you know, underneath routes. Maybe if they drop into a zone, it's probably, maybe they count it because it's behind him, but it's near his zone or something. You know what I mean?
Going off that, I want to ask y'all a quick question.
What's up?
Just like, what did y'all value the most in terms of what you were prioritizing when ranking a lot of these people? Because with cornerbacks and safeties, there's a lot of different sort of roles they're playing on their different teams, and things like completion percentage, most interceptions, tackles. There's a bunch of different things you could factor in for like what you care about most. And since we all had Jaylen Ramsey number one, and Anthony brings up the completion percentage things, is there something that y'all value in his game that makes you look past that as the reason why he's still your number one for right now?
For me, I think it's because I've watched Jaylen over, and I'm a Miami fan, so I saw him while he was at FSU. Just him being able to play the best receiver consistently, because there's situations where there's dudes on this list that aren't always following the best receiver. It's because their whole unit on the defense is collectively better. Jaylen on the back end, his unit on the back end is not collectively better to where it's like, okay, we can afford for you not to go follow the best dude. Essentially, if he doesn't follow the best dude, the other corner on the other side is going to get bullied. So I think it's that. He's physical. He tackles. I wish he actually, the only knock I have on Jaylen is like his hands when the ball is like in front of him. He has some weird, like, he'll jump around and then like he'll tip the ball. And I'm like, bro, like you could have just picked it. It would have been great. But I think overall, how he breaks on the ball, pass breakups, his physicality with the receivers. Because he's a bigger corner, so he gets physical with guys. Like, the only people he's not getting physical with is, like, those big specimens of, like, Mike Evans or DeAndre Hopkins. Like, bigger dudes where it's like, all right, this kind of, I can't bully you, essentially, or get super physical because maybe I give up something.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point. The following aspect is big because a lot of teams will play zone and guys really won't have to follow. But even when the Rams kind of want to play zone, Jaylen Ramsey is still following his guy. And, like, that's insane. Yeah, that's insane, right? I think it's also big that he doesn't give up a lot of big plays or touchdowns. So the things I looked at a lot, of course, interceptions, pass breakups, fumbles, forced fumbles, recoveries, etc. But I really got into the advanced stats for most of these guys. So it's like how much, when you're targeted, do they complete? How many touchdowns do you give up? And how many yards are you giving up per reception that you give up? Right? And that was it. And those were big for me. It kind of caused me to look at safeties a little bit different because the yards per reception for safeties are so much higher.
It's different too because some of them are getting thrown in the slot. They're either going out alone to match up in the tight end with the slot or picking them up off the line. So it's different, you gotta think probably when the offensive doing that, it's probably for a big play, like when they're dropping and they have 3 wideouts out or it's trips. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we can start with our second and third, and that's the first tie that we have coming up. Is it 2 and 3? And it's not even between 2 corners or 2 safeties. It's 1 corner, 1 safety, and tied at 9 points for both of them is J.C. Jackson with now the Chargers and Kevin Byard with the Titans, the safety.
Kevin,
let's talk
been
about
making
it.
Noise, bro. Kevin been making.
Let's talk about it. Who are you taking this upcoming season, J.C. Jackson or Kevin Byard?
I had J.C. Jackson as my number 2. So for me, I'm taking J.C. Jackson just based off last year being number 1 in pass defended, and then the last 2 years being number 2 in interceptions. I think he's just shown consistency in pass coverage that makes me put him, and I feel like he's like going back to what we were talking about with Jaylen, a lot of the times guarding the best receiver on the team. And it's really kind of a toss-up between what do you value the most, like the hard-hitting kind of like center field, playing safety that's kind of all over the field, covering the slot, playing zone, playing a little man, guarding big tight ends. Watching some of the Kevin Byard versus George Kittle footage from this past year while I was researching this was really fun, but I had J.C. Jackson as my number 2 just based off of the leading in passes defended and just being number 2 in picks the last 2 years. I had him comfortably as number 2 for those kind of reasons.
You know who got the most picks? I think it's from like 2018. Don't get no recognition, missed the last season. Or I think it's like 2017, maybe. It's Marcus Peters. I think he's leading everybody still in picks.
Yo, I think I actually ranked Marcus Peters the highest out of everybody on this day.
Yeah, so,
I had him
but
14.
Yeah, Peters, he's gonna grab the ball. But I think with Kevin Byard, I've just seen him do it for so long. And if you really think about that Tennessee team, I can't really name, like I can name dudes because I watch football, but other than Jeffrey Simmons and Handry, the left out, or I think he plays right outside linebacker. He's on one of the outsides, opposite of Bud Dupree. I can't really name that many people on that team, like defensively, So it's really just him. He's been consistent for them, much like how Marcia Latimer is. He's not by himself, but he's been Mr. Consistent for the Saints. I feel like that's what you get with Kevin Byard. And I think he's a great ball hawk. He gets a lot of tackles. I think that's where J.C. Jackson, he'll force fumbles. Like, he'll poke out the ball. But you will get away from him if, like, you catch the ball and he's the person that got to tackle you.
Interesting. Look,
but safety-wise is definitely Byard, number 1. So I think whether it's 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. But safety-wise, number 1, I think it's Byard.
Yeah, undeniably Byard is our number 1 safety. It's not close. I took JC second as well. And the thing that stuck out for me a ton is that JC was targeted a bunch last year, like 106 times, and he gave up less than 50% of the time. Like, that's probably the lowest of every single player on this list, is that the reception rate was 49% against JC Jackson. Everybody else is well above 50. Like, we talked about Jaylen Ramsey at 60% damn near. Like, they are throwing the ball JC's way, and dudes is not getting it. They are not getting it.
You think it's a benefit, though? Remember when Gilly had that MVP season with Belichick? Like, he gets the corners to just produce at an insane level. And then, like, is he going to replicate that same thing? I feel like with the Chargers, I don't even think he's going to get thrown at, to be honest. I feel like people are going to go, okay, I'm going to bully the other corner and not throw at JC because they're going to have a pass rush. And I feel like some of those balls are going to be off quick moves, like quick routes where it's like, okay, like they got a pass rush, let's get them.
Yeah, but we ain't seen him sans Belichick yet, really. So I'm going to give him his flowers for what he's done. Like, being targeted 100+ times and giving up less than 50% of the time is ridiculous. And he gave up half as many touchdowns as Byard.
Yeah,
those two things put him over the top for me and get him in our second spot. Like, it seems like he'll be 2, Byard will be 3. Is it a 2-1 vote here? All right.
I guess 2-1.
It is a 2-1 vote here. Number 4, however, and this bothered me, yo. Well, let's talk about this. Marcia Latimer was on number 4. Total score of 15 points. You have him at 3. Sam has him at 4. And I have him at like 8. And I thought 8 was generous. Y'all got to convince me on why Marshawn Lattimore is that far up.
Generous.
Look, Marshawn will give up a big play here and there. I feel like with a lot of these corners, we're going to get in. Once we get past like the Jaylen Ramseys and J.C. Jacksons of the world, we're going to get into a lot of boom or bust conversations with corners. High interception rate versus high completion rate. And while Marshawn Lattimore is prone to give up a big play here and there, I feel like those things get over-focused on when those things are a product of like one play or two in a game, not going the Saints' way, not going his way. Whereas, like he said, he has just been consistent lockdown defender on a lockdown defense for the last couple of years. And like we said with Jaylen Ramsey, constantly seeking out the best matchup and following sort of the best receiver.
He putting the best dudes in a chokehold. My bad. He putting the best dudes in a chokehold.
I think we're sort of on the same page with this, and that sort of the biggest thing that sticks out to me when thinking about Marshawn Lattimore is just constantly clamping Mike Evans, constantly making things a problem for that division. Good receivers like Calvin Ridley, when they come play the Saints, are having to work for every yard against Marshawn Lattimore. And even though like the interception numbers are a little bit down, I think the other things he brings to the game kind of factor in me thinking he's still top 5 tier corner.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he will get out physical though. That's the thing. Like, the bigger receivers, like that's where Mike gets him. Like the Bucs get in the red zone. Brady, even Jameis, we're like, all right, well, we know we can still throw at Mike in the red zone with Marshawn on him, It's just in that regard, he doesn't have that much room as he would if they're at like the 30-yard line and got to drive all the way down. But I think he's exceptionally well. He's always benefited from having a really good defense. I will say that though. He's like who's he like? He's like I'd say probably like Tredavius White in the aspect of like I have other people with me. Like his secondary is normally pretty solid around him. The pass rush with Cam Jordan is insane. So he does benefit from having I would say a whole unit and a great defensive coordinator. But now his defense coordinator is about to be the head coach. Things are going to switch. I still think he's going to be consistent, though.
Yeah, okay. I think that this is a player that's living a lot off legacy right now. I'm not saying that he can't produce next season, but, like, where'd y'all rank Trayvon Diggs? Hold on. Where'd you rate Trayvon Diggs? It's very low.
Yeah, I put him at 21.
21. Why?
I would take Marcus Peters healthy over him.
Uh-huh.
I had Denzel Ward was an iffy one, but everybody before him, I feel like is people I would take over.
What about his game made you like the numbers he put up made you put him at 21?
I feel like he has what a lot of Marcus Peters did early on is like, yo, I'm going to get caught, but I'm going to make a play on the ball. But those times where you get caught, like I think about the Tim Patrick, the catch where Teddy Bridgewater drops in the breadbasket over him. And I'm like, bro, like, you don't got nobody on the other side of you where you can really be like, okay, like, I can give that up every so often.
Yo, this bothered me so much, bro, because Trayvon Diggs' season was worlds better than Marshawn Lattimore. Like, people were like, Trayvon Diz gives up too many yards, etc., because he's gambling.
He give up all he want. He getting interceptions.
Trayvon Diggs only gave up like 70 more yards than Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore gave up 13.5 yards per reception. Trayvon Diggs gave up 16.8.
But in that world, why did Trayvon Diggs not have a better season than Jaylen Ramsey?
Well, because the how many yards you give up, how often they catch against you, etc. Right? Like, that's why I want to compare Marshawn Lattimore to Trayvon Diz, because they were both giving up a bunch of yards per play. Marshawn Lattimore targeted 106 times, gave up 61 catches. That's 57.5% of the time. Trayvon Diggs targeted 103 times, gave up 54 catches. That's 52% of the time. But he had 11 picks.
Who's the best receiver in the NFC least?
Terry McLaurin.
Scary Terry. Yeah. Right.
Terry.
So the best receiver you see is Scary Terry, who is great. Let's get that right? Marcia Latimer sees Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, DJ Moore is not no bum. Then you turn around when Calvin Ridley's healthy and not gambling, you got to deal with that.
But that don't matter for last year.
It don't. I feel like I just feel like the competition level, like, you know who I think about when I think about that doesn't face that much competition in their receiver room as the opposition is like Jalir Alexander. I think he's exceptional, but then I always look at like, damn, like you only go see the Twin Devils in Minnesota to go cover them.
Marcia Latimer is very good. Don't get me wrong, but
that's a good point. You could be living.
Yeah,
off
I think
of
he's
it.
living off it.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm also saying I know what that man will do against elite people, and then the fact of I don't know what Trayvon Diggs will do against if you had to go stack him. Say you switch spots, would Diggs get 11 interceptions with the Saints?
If they let him play his style, like that's the thing. The Saints have to be willing to let him play his style of gambling. Then yeah, that's possible. But like the Cowboys have empowered him to gamble.
Oh yeah, they saying bro gamble
because you can just change a game. Like
I mean, I like
Marcia Latimer gave up 3 more touchdowns than Trayvon Diggs too.
Probably they were. I bet you a majority of Latimores were in the red zone.
Okay,
I'm giving you. I bet you his were in the red zone. People were like, all right, we're gonna.
I was just bothered. That's all. I'm gonna let it go. I was just bothered. At 5, we have AJ Tyrell. I actually really like this. Like, he's an absolute baller.
Kind of high for the young dude.
I think you had him at 8. So did Sam.
Yeah, I had him at 8.
But AJ Terrell's season was ridiculous for me. I had him up at like 3 or 4. Like, this dude is nuts. He also had a 50% completion rate on him with 86 targets. Only gave up 3 touchdowns. He gave up less than 10 yards a catch.
But they play more zone than man in Atlanta, don't they?
Yeah, but is the talent really there in Atlanta for you to be like, oh, that's covering up for him? So he got an old dude on the other side of him that's no bum. I didn't say he was a bum.
I know he ain't get no. No, I'm saying what's his face? I can't think of his name. It's Casey Hayward, I think. Yeah, it's Casey Hayward on the other side of him in Atlanta. He's not no bum, so having 2 consistent corners, I feel like definitely helps. But I get the whole Atlanta team, other than him, Grady Jarrett and Deion Jones, is abysmal.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked him up there. I think he had a ball out season. He was at 19, only 4 points under Marshawn Lattimore. 6, we have a tie for 6 and 7. I don't know why our ties keep being between corners and safeties.
Yeah, it's not corner and corner, bro. It's corner and safety, which is bogus.
I mean, when I did my list, right, like I started ranking the corners first. Then I started ranking the safeties and then trying to compare where I'd slide the safeties into my list and move other people down. So we got Xavier Howard at 21 from the Dolphins and Derwin James at 21 as well from the Chargers. Like, this one was big for me. I don't feel as strongly here, but who would y'all be taking out of the Xavier Howard Derwin James matchup?
I had Derwin James higher, and I will say that just based off of going in and watching some of the film, watching the highlights, Derwin James is one of the hardest hitting people on this list. I would say that just from what I watched, Kevin Byard, by far the hardest hitter on this list. But after that, I would say the next 2 for me, just off, eye test, were Derwin James, and there was Harrison Smith from the Vikings. But all just hitting really hard. And I think him being paired with J.C. Jackson is going to be fun as shit, honestly, coming up. So
yes, Asante Samuel Jr. too.
I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I think for me, I'm taking Xavier Howard. I like corners that can play the ball, even though I didn't give Trayvon Diggs any love. I think, unlike Diggs, he can play zone, and man. You know what I mean? So he's not like he only can play his way essentially. Like where, hey, I gotta gamble. Like no, he doesn't have to gamble. He can stay with the best of them. But he also doesn't see anybody other than Diggs every year at receiver. And he does have Byron Jones on the other side of him. But I think with Derwin, the only thing is just health. Like I'd put him over Kevin Byard if he had been healthy this whole time. I think I would easily put him over Byard if he was healthy this whole time. But it's just health is his biggest downfall. I feel like that's nobody. I don't think there's a tight end that's gonna make him look bad, other than maybe Kelsey. There's no receiver that's going to catch him in the slot and abuse him like that, where like they're fully just going to devour him if he gets in the slot. You can move him around, unlike Jamal Adams, where you're like, hey, like what best works for you? Derwin, the versatility, speed, how Sam said he can hit. He's a heavy hitter. He plays the ball too. Like you're not just throwing at him and he won't grab it. So
that's a big one. I'm rocking with it. I ranked Xavier Howard higher. And like, yeah, so like the tie would go to Xavier Howard, but man, the fact that Derwin James only gave up a single touchdown last season is insane. Scary. Yeah, it's insane. He gave up one touchdown, and I want to be like, yo, he gave it one touchdown. Xavier Howard gave up 6 of them. He should take it, but Xavier Howard just kind of fills up the stat sheet altogether. Like he scored a touchdown. He had 3 more interceptions. He had a sack last year. Like he had 2 forced fumbles and 2 recoveries. Like just like his overall impact on just changing the game is just different. It's just different.
I think Derwin's is like that. I just think he's been the focal point by himself. And much like how Xavier Howard has, but Xavier has someone on the other side of him. Derwin, it's Bosa, but Bosa's kind of nicked up sometimes. And I really wish the Ravens would have gotten him last year when they were talking about getting him. I would have lost my fucking mind if they paired him. Marcus Peters and Marlowe, that would have been insane. Ungodly to try to throw against them.
All right. Next at 8, we got Tredavius White, combined score of 33. So, like, that's the biggest gap and jump we have is between 7 and 8. He only played 11 games last season, and I was surprised that, like, all of us still kind of felt that even though he had only played 11 games last year, he needed to be up here. Dude was insane. Like, in those 11 games, he gave up no touchdowns. That like
small dude, but you ain't gonna bully him.
Like he was nice. He gave no touchdowns. He had a forced fumble, a fumble recovery, had half a sack. Like the numbers were there for like extrapolating on what he could have done in a whole season instead. I liked it a lot. I had him up pretty high. It doesn't seem like we have a lot to talk about there. Number 9 is an interesting one for me, and that's where we got Tyrann Mathieu. Combined score 39. You know what stuck out to me the most is that like this dude kind of is a problem for the quarterback, like getting to the quarterback. Like I didn't even really think about it like that. Yeah, I didn't even think about it like that. He had like 5 pressures, a couple QB hits. He of course had like a sack, 3 fumble recoveries, like 3 interceptions, a defensive touchdown. Like playmaker.
He's dangerous when he drops out in the box or in the slot because he blitzes from the slot too. It's kind of crazy. Yeah.
He does give up 69% of the passes thrown at him though, which was kind of wild.
I mean, he's a smaller dude, and I don't think he's that fast. So like you cup that with you got to think Cooper Kupp be in the slot, Devontae Adams a bigger dude to be in the slot. You see these bigger dudes in the slot, and some of them have speed. He's definitely going to get hit, and you're paired with Sorensen over the top. Probably ain't that much help.
Yeah, I think I had him in. Okay, yeah, we all had him. This is actually something that's really, really interesting here. This was kind of one of the more situations where only one of us ranked a lot of players. Like a lot of players only had one person rank them, but everybody ranked Tyrann Mathieu, which ended up putting him where he's at. But none of us had him ranked above 10. Like, that's the thing. None of us thought he was a top 10 defensive back in the league, but since we all ranked him, 14, bro. He ends up at 9.
Had him at 14.
There's just so many of these guys. That makes sense. Like, There's just so
I had a
many.
dog over him too.
Yeah, no, you had him at 13. I had him at 13 as well. You had him at 14. I had him at 13. Sam had him at 12. 12, 13, 14 is where we all had him. None of us thought he was top 10, but he makes top 10 because he's just ranked by everybody. All right, number 10.
Like that.
Oh, what's up?
That route that AB hit him with in the Super Bowl, I'm willing to bet AB's not hitting that route on Derwin James.
Okay. I mean,
I'm damn sure willing to bet Derwin James breaks that shit up.
yo, at 10, we got our first Raven. Marlon Humphreys gets it in at 10.
Disrespectful.
Yo, I don't think so,
Crazy.
man. I saw you ranked him all the way up at 6, and I was like, boy, finally you show us some unreasonable love to your Ravens because you have not been ranking them high until now.
That was. I feel like that wasn't no love. I feel like people bring up. Yes, he did have a setback last year when he normally doesn't. But you gotta think the whole defense was depleted, and he's essentially having to line up against the best person in and out, which he does normally do. But we'll throw him in the slot. Marcus Peters would be on the outside. You know what I mean? So I think it was just a bad year. I expect him to go back to the year prior. He's going to get he forces a lot of fumbles. He fruit punches a lot of people. He's exceptional everywhere, and I feel like I wouldn't be shocked if they start blitzing him more.
Yeah, man, he gave up 6 touchdowns in 12 games. That was not it for me. I'm just going to be honest. That was not it for me.
You said it's not it for you, bitch. Bitch, I'm a Raven. It wasn't it for me.
You had him rate the 6. He gave up a touchdown at 50% of the games he played in, and you had him all the way at 6. I was like, bro. I mean, I respect it as a Raven because you're a Ravens fan, but damn, what was that love for like Lamar?
Bro,
That's so funny.
Oh man,
he gonna be better this year for sure.
All right. At 11, we had Kenny Moore II. And this is interesting. Sam had him at 14. You had him at 17. I had him at 15. And this is kind of one of those situations where we all had him in there. And Kenny Moore was kind of a guy that I kept moving him down for other people when he was in my top 10 at first, which is kind of what got him there. Like, dude's numbers are shockingly good for not being talked about at all, which might be because he plays for the Colts.
He plays for the Colts, and then I think he only really plays in the slot. I don't think he's a dude that plays outside the numbers like that. And he also is small as shit, so it is understandable.
Okay. Yeah, 4 interceptions, 13 pass breakups, a sack, a forced fumble. He did give up 66.9% of his catches. Percent of his targets. But he got targeted 121 times. Like, Jesus. He was working. He was working. But he only gave up
be moving the slot. A lot.
He only gave up 9.4 yards reception.
He's a slot corner. And now he's gonna have Gilly on the other side of him or over on the opposite side, playing outside. So I expect to see him in the slot so much to where he's not even worried about going out wide anymore.
Okay.
Anthony, do you know what league average is for yards per catch given up?
I don't have the average for the entire league. I do have the numbers for most of the guys that we ranked. Well, I have the numbers for all the guys in our top 20 that weren't hurt significantly last year.
So 9.4, how does it rank compared to some of the guys we've talked about?
9.4 is by far maybe the lowest or second lowest.
Highest. They're lowest, but highest person.
Yeah, Denzel Ward got 9.3. He's below him. AJ Terrell was 9.7, just above him. That's why, when Jaylen Ramsey was 10.8, I was like, it's not that crazy, actually. Especially for the way and who Jaylen plays against. I think those are the only people under him. 9.3 also Adoree Jackson, but I don't think Adoree Jackson made our final list. He was on my list. I don't think he was on anybody else's list.
I didn't put him on my list, but I wouldn't be surprised with Wink Martindale if he has an ungodly season this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, y'all should not have given up.
I would actually. Don't even get me started, big dog. kept Greg Roman.
Yeah, like Wink had like one of the best defenses every single year that he was there, besides like last year, and then y'all were like, "Nah, get this bum out of here."
Bro, I don't even use the Ravens offensive playbook on Madden. That's how bad that shit is. Okay? It's a damn video game, and I don't use that playbook. That should let you know everything that needs to be done.
Okay. All right, 12, we had Darius Slay, big play Slay. I like Darius Slay. I had him I think I had him the lowest out of all of us. You had him the highest, Keith at 10, Sam at 16, me at 20.
Dog.
Yo, I mean, shit. Darius Slay, I mean, he ain't bad.
He's getting older, though. I think next year, this following year is probably going to be his last really good year at corner.
He doesn't tackle a lot. That's what I didn't like about him. That got him down to 20. He had 52 combined tackles.
That's always been the thing with corners, though. Corners, they either don't hit hard, they can't wrap up, and that's why Jaylen, for how big he is and how good he is, and like he's that great of a corner, for him to tackle as good as he does.
Dude, Kenny Moore had 102 tackles. Like,
small ass dude, too.
like
that's crazy.
Tredavius White had more tackles in 11 games than Darius Slay had in 16. Like, he don't tackle. Like, I get like corners don't tackle in general, but for a corner, he don't tackle.
But you gotta think. So what if he's not in the slot like Kenny Moore is? What if he's only out wide and then they're not throwing at him? So the play's the opposite end. You see plays like that where somebody from the opposite side ain't chasing him
I mean,
down.
that's true. I mean, Slay was targeted 85 times, gave up 50 catches. That's a 58.8% completion percentage against him. He only has 2 more combined tackles than catches he gave up. That's not okay. That number is the one that's not okay.
Where's his number show that he's lined up? It's outside, right?
I'm just saying, like, even no matter where you're lined up, the total number of catches you give up versus the total number of combined tackles you have, like you can't only get 52 combined tackles but give up 50 catches. Yeah, that's the thing for me. It's like people are like he caught the ball and you were the defender, and you did not tackle him. Is what that says. That's what it says. It's like he caught the ball on you and you did not tackle him.
I don't think even when he was on the Lions, he was ever really that great at tackling. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can look at that right now. I don't think he's always been that good at tackling.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's fair, but he's there. He's a good player. I think he had kind of a down year.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
He's never clipped over 70 tackles.
Yeah,
combined.
That's not great.
So I mean, that should tell you right there. He ain't tackling as much as you probably like.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he's tackling that much. I think his highs was 60 something.
All right, we got like a 3-way tie for 13 through 15. Of course, we got a safety in here because we got to. But we got Justin Simmons of the Broncos, Buda Baker for the Cardinals. He's still the Cardinals, right? Yeah. And Mika Fitzpatrick with the Steelers, all at 49. Good 3-way tie.
That's a tough. Yeah.
Look, this was interesting for me. I think for me, the highest person I had out of these 3 was Justin Simmons. I thought his season last year was ridiculously good. Who are y'all taking out of this 3-way tie?
I'm taking Justin, then Mika, and Buddha. I rate Buddha 23rd, so that lets you know I probably ain't taking Buddha.
I had Minka the highest.
Oh, so we all had a different highest person. So that's not a good way to break the tie. I mean, we could talk the stats real quick. Oh. I should have them all with me. So Buda Baker played and started all 17 games last season. That was a big plus for me. He only gave up 2 touchdowns. Also a big plus for me. He had 98 combined tackles, 63 solo, 1 fumble recovery, 2 sacks, 3 interceptions. He, however, was only targeted 32 times, but gave up 68.6% of those targets for 22 catches.
Oh, dude.
So I don't blame you for having him at the kind of the bottom there. Justin Simmons, he also started all 17 games, had 5 interceptions, 12 pass breakups, 1.5 sacks, 88 tackles, gave up 3 touchdowns. 14.2 yards per catch he gave up. He was targeted 54 times, gave up 32 of those. That is 59.3% of his targets.
Mika had a combined. Yeah, Mika had the most tackles out of all of them. He had 124, 40 assisted, and then he had 2 interceptions. Didn't take anything to the crib. Buddha, 3 interceptions. I'm pretty sure he didn't get hawked down last year by DK.
Yeah,
the year before, I think. He had 98 tackles combined, 2 sacks. So he definitely probably, when he lines up in the slot.
Mika was targeted 56 times. He gave up 35 of them. That is 62.5% for.
Oh, so he's the worst. Mika's the worst in coverage.
I think who the first person I said was Buda Baker, gave up 68.8. Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, I didn't have that much love for Justin Simmons. Not that I didn't respect his game or nothing. I just didn't really watch that many Denver games last year. So for this ranking, I had to go back and watch Denver games. And luckily enough, I was playing with the Broncos in my Madden franchise. So okay, let me watch this man's highlights because I'm hawking everything down in the game with him. And I looked up his stats, went back, and just watched some of the games that he played in. He's really like that. And he's paired with Patrick Surtain. They got a bunch of young linebackers. Bradley Chubb. I think their defense is built to go for it. Especially him anchoring it with Pat Surtain is going to be insane.
That is interesting. This is a weird 3-way tie because we all had a different person at the very top of it.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I would have. I didn't look in depth in Mika's. I was just going off of what I've seen Mika do.
2 years ago, he was
just
insane.
Watching the games. Yeah, he probably tailed off. He's been tailing off maybe a little bit.
Especially that first year in Pittsburgh, his numbers were nuts. So at 16, we have another 2-way tie between Denzel Warden, Jair Alexander at a total of 51 points. Look, y'all can fight this one out. I ain't got a big one for it.
I think the only difference between them, I think Jair plays in the slot more, but I think Denzel's actually faster. They both deal with the same thing because Denzel Ward, he just lined up against Chase and them boys on the Bengals this past season because he was actually healthy, right? So, but before that, he wasn't seeing no crazy receivers. Same thing with but
Jair. Denzel played. I had been Denzel above Jair because he played 15 games this season. So he was actually out there. He did all right. He had 3 interceptions, a defensive touchdown, 10 pass breakups, only gave up 4 touchdowns, and 9.3 yards per reception. But he did give up 60% of the targets thrown his way.
Yeah, I had Denzel at 19. Just barely above Marcus Peters, and I'm definitely probably taking Marcus Peters over him.
I had Jair Alexander, I know, a bit higher. Yeah, I had him at 18. So, that's just, I think, going off pure potential because we don't know coming off the injury how exactly he's going to bounce back. But I think just going off pure potential, I like him a bit more. But I do think it's really close.
All right, facts. All right, number 18 is interesting because we have not had any teammates placed on this list until now. But number 18 at 52 points is Pat Surtain II. There are 2 Denver Broncos on this list. That says some shit. That says some shit. That back half of that defense is nutty. Pat Surtain is had a crazy rookie season. He played 16 games, started in 15 of them, gave us 4 interceptions, 9 pass breakups, and the big part about it for me was people were not converting on him. They targeted him 96 times. He gave up 49 catches. That's 51% of the time, and only 3 touchdowns.
They tried to get the rookie they didn't know who that man dad was. Crazy.
They were throwing it at him, and they were not having any luck. Marcia Latimer had more luck against him, had more luck against Derwin James, Xavier Howard, Kevin Byard. J.C. Jackson is, I think, maybe the only person on this list who people had worse luck against.
Those are some names too.
Yeah, Pat Surtain is a rookie. That's his rookie season. That's gonna be nasty. At 53, so total combined point of 53, our number 19 is Trayvon Diggs. And he's only this far down because Sam did not rank him, which gave him a total score of 26 points.
That was an accident.
All right,
I had him ranked on the first
All right.
version I sent you, but I accidentally left him unranked on the second. There are dudes I would move him above, definitely, from my top 25. But we have talked about kind of like the risk that goes into his game. I wouldn't have him top 10, top 15. He would probably be somewhere in the 20s, if I had to say. Interceptions is not the main thing I value when going into this. And obviously, he had the most deflections as well as the most interceptions last year. But just those big plays, obviously when you're getting the ball for your team, a lot of it is made up for if you give up a big play here and there. But I think I just need to see more consistency, not just going for interceptions, but trying to make sure the offense doesn't advance the ball is kind of the number one priority. And I think some of the guys in our more like elite tier top 10 rankings, they get the interceptions as well as just stop the offense from advancing the ball, and they don't become a liability ever. So that's why I have him just outside of the elite tier, but definitely didn't mean to leave him off my second rankings entirely.
All right, I'm going to be honest. I think Trayvon Diz got so much hype last year, it kind of became cool to hate on him. Like when they were like, he gives up the most yards in the league, et cetera, all the big plays, which is true, but like he's not doing it in such a ridiculous fashion that you should knock him. Like we talked about Marcia Latimer earlier, who gives up almost as many yards as him, and people were like, Marcia Latimer played well. Like nobody besides J.C. Jackson was close to his interception numbers. Like ballpark close to his interception numbers. Like 11 picks, 2 touchdowns, 21 passes defense. Like the impact he has on the game, I think, makes him a top 10 corner. It just top 10 defensive back in general. It just kind of has to. Like I get he might give up a big play here and there, but he only gave up 4 touchdowns. He scored 2. Like, it's like, I get it, but the Cowboys want him to gamble because the gambles were successful often enough that it just changed the entire landscape of games for them. And when you can do something like that on your own, that's just something special. Like, he'll probably get better at gambling at more right times, but I don't ever think the Cowboys want him to be all that more discerning.
Yeah. That makes sense. And I think it's something that we as fans and just people commenting on the game have to take into account of like, you don't want to buy into the hype too much, but you also don't want to do the other thing of trying not to buy into the hype so much that you kind of knock their game or take away from it. So that's definitely something that I think I need to go into this year, just thinking about Trayvon Diggs and other people. It's just like, don't get into so much narrative, just like what are the numbers, what is the eye test, like, because that's something I really wrestled with ranking him, of like, he gets the ball for his team. The more your team can have the ball, the more they have a chance of scoring the ball and winning the game. And just balancing that with giving up yards. Obviously didn't give up a ton of touchdowns, so that's not the main concern. But the yards and the occasional big play are things that you do have to worry about. But I totally agree that what his team is asking him to do is to be aggressive and go get the ball for them. So you can't knock him for playing into that system.
Yeah, I love the ability to go up and get the ball. I hate when corners don't play the ball or like they just don't get their head around to see where the ball's at. So I think it's a big thing. I mean, it was something early on, like Marcus Peters figured out when he was on the Chiefs and the Rams. Marcus Peters' numbers on the Rams, boy, he was giving up a lot of yardage. But it's also a big deal being able to take somebody off, but take the pick, from someone. But I think he can just get better from here, and he'll move up the list eventually. Just craft his game. Like early on, people realize they can hit Marcus Peters with a double move. Shit, they still be hitting him with double moves. So if Diggs gets, they're like, okay, like, hey, I know they're gonna do this. Because that's what I'm pretty sure that Tim Patrick route was a double
Patriots
move.
caught him with a double move with Mack for that touchdown at the end of the game.
Hey, no. See, people say that. I want to bring this up because me and Terrence talk about it because Terrence is a Pats fan. I think when he hit that double move, I think he thought the safety was supposed to be over the top. So when he turned his head, because he turned away, he could have still played the ball, but I think he thought the safety was going to come do something. Because you could see like he lets up and he's just like. So I think it was really on the safety. He was probably expecting the safety to either knock him off or just pick the ball because he did let up. I don't think he would have did that if it wasn't because they weren't playing man. I think they were in zone.
Okay. All right. Our number 20, this is wild. Our number 20 was only ranked by one person, and it was Sev Jamal Adams at 20. Rounds out our list. Look.
This is
look, you got to talk to.
I'm projecting a bounce back.
Yeah, you got to talk to us about Blitz Boy and his number 6 ranking on your list that puts him at our number 20.
Well, one, probably some legacy just goes into there, not wanting to disrespect someone that's been his first couple of years in the league, just like really make me think that maybe the last two are anomalies and he can get back to sort of the level of elite defense he was playing. The really big thing is just games played. Last 2 seasons, he's only been able to play in 12 games. And the other thing that the last year that really sticks out is just the 13.4 yards per completion. Still pretty good rate. Like, they're only converting it at a 58% rate when he's guarding and only targeted 51 times. So it's not like they're going at him a lot. I still think he's respected as someone move around the field and play some coverage too. But obviously his value comes in terms of creating tackles, getting to the quarterback, making pressure. And I think that's something that he can get back to this coming season. So I would say that this is kind of also something that you're balancing when going into rankings. How much are you going just off last year versus how much do you project improvement or even for some players bouncing back and getting back to a level of play that they've been at? I'm not the only one that likes Jamal Adams either. Like, fantasy still likes him a lot for his ability to create points within the Seahawks defense. So, for that, I still think he's worthy of making the list, but I definitely understand why, based off the last 2 seasons, people are skeptical of calling him one of the more elite DBs.
And I would only say the last 1 season.
Hey, hear me out.
2020 was crazy for him.
I'm putting that motherfucker at linebacker on the Seahawks, bro. Not to, I just feel like his skill set of how he plays, I would rather have him in a situation where he picks up the outside flats or maybe a little bit that's not too far out instead of having him have to play center field when you got Trayvon Diggs who can play center field. I just feel like he'd be better served there because you look at the impact he makes intermediate, getting the sacks, the tackles. I feel like he's not small, he's 6'1". You probably could put him at linebacker and he'd be fine. So I think I would try it, especially as much as he plays in the box. I feel like career-wise, that would be a bigger benefit for him. Because I'm tired of, he doesn't look great at, in coverage, But most linebackers, other than Darius Leonard and Fred Warner and Levante David, don't look good in coverage.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're not giving up. They're not way in the back where they're the last line of defense. And you're like, hey, bro, you got to make the play on the ball or something.
Yeah, for me, it was just his fall off from 2020. Because 2020, he had 9.5 sacks and 26 quarterback pressures. That is insane. That is insane. But then he went from that to 0 sacks and 6 quarterback pressures in 2021. And that's what couldn't get him on the list for me. That 2020 season, I still think is crazy. Because he comes over from the Jets to the Seahawks in the beginning of that season. And, he couldn't cover for shit. People got 78% of the passes they threw at him, but he was not trying to cover for shit. He had defensive end sack numbers that year. It is insane. It is insane. He definitely has a talent to be up there for sure. The last year fall off was weird. We got like a couple of guys in the last 21 and 25 range that just did not make the list, just barely. I think one that was interesting that we touched on was Harrison Smith. You talked about him being a hard hitter. Marcus Peters not making the list was kind of hard, man, because I had Marcus Peters all the way up at 14. Like, this guy is different. Marlon Humphreys gets a lot of like the coverage and like attention, but Marcus Peters is different, man. Like, I thought I was shocked at how good he was, especially the previous year before this last one. Zavon Gilmore is the last person I want to talk about. He was ranked 23 for us. Are we expecting about like? And it's weird just because Gilly barely played it all last year, right? Injury, trade, etc., etc. Like, what do we expect from Stephon Gilmore on the Colts?
I mean, I remember I looked this up. They don't play that much man, so he plays man. But I think at this age, him being able to drop back in zone won't be the end all be all. So I think he'll be fine. He does have other people around him that play good in coverage too. So he's not going to be by himself. Darius Leonard's good in coverage. We already talked about Kenny Moore. They do have a safety that is young, so they're going to be okay. I think he won't have like an MVP bounce back. He gets an MVP bounce back, like, I'd be shocked. Like, that would be shocking to me. But I think he definitely has a good comeback year. Probably finishes top 15.
Yeah, I had him at 21, just outside my top 20, just for all the reasons you said, Anthony. We haven't seen him play in a minute, but it feels wrong to leave him off the list altogether from what we have seen. And he's in a good situation, like he said. Other people that can sort of take the pressure off of just him. So I expect a good bounce back season, but I also would be surprised if he was like up there in conversation for defensive MVP or something like that.
And there's not a receiver in that conference is like, was he in the AFC South? Nobody's gonna torch him. You know what I mean?
Brandon
like the best receiver is Robert Woods coming off an injury, and then Brandon Cooks. You know what I mean? So, like, one of those, like, Brandon Cooks is gonna get numbers, but is it gonna be on Gilly? I probably don't think so. You know what I mean?
Match up the speed guy with Gilly in like year 5 or whatever, coming off injury.
Bro, not even. Gilly's gonna press him, bro. He might not even get off the line from Gilly like that. So, but another big name we ain't mentioned, bro. We really got 3
Marcus
Ravens
Williams
on here if we think about it. Oh, man,
he was out 25.
Williams, big dog. He's 25. I think he's gonna be special for Baltimore. He's a safety that predominantly only plays in the back. Like, he's not the safety that moves up into the box, doesn't move in the slot. He's just a center field safety. I don't think his interception numbers are all that crazy. Let me check again.
What did y'all think about Micah Hyde?
You were the only person that ranked.
That's one we also have.
I think you were the only person that ranked him.
He did end up inside the top 25, so that makes sense.
Because you had him all the way up at 13. Marcus Williams had 2 picks, 8 pass breakups, 1.5. 1.5 forced fumbles. Marcus Williams is very interesting because he was targeted 43 times, but only gave up 21 catches. That's a 48.8 completion percentage against him.
He's a young dude too, so I feel like he's just gonna learn more in that system. With all he got, he's gonna have Marlowe, he's gonna have Hump. No matter what anybody says, I know Chuck Clark. Maybe they might move him, or maybe he's not gonna be on the team eventually. He's still, talent wise, Chuck Clark ain't got the best talent, but does he know where he needs to be and understands that? Yes, he is a way better version of Daniel Sorensen.
Is that saying all that much?
He's definitely someone you can have on the field. When you know where you're going to be, you're not going to give a... he was a punching bag to Earl Thomas.
Saying he's a better version of Daniel Sorensen.
I just think he's...
Because all people did was shit on Daniel Sorensen all year long.
Bro, all I know is Chucky ain't gonna give him no plays like that. Chuck damn sure gonna drop the ball though. If he got an interception,
like Jordan Love Chuck was picking on Daniel Sorensen last year.
You know who we didn't mention? Two corners or safeties we didn't mention. They should get some love. Adrian Amos, he's older, but he's consistent. And then his running mate, Darnell Savage. Young dude, but no. I don't think Jordan Porter's all that.
Can I make my Micah Hyde pitch real quick?
Yeah, make the Micah
coming pitch. Off All-Pro season, All-Pro second team season, 5 interceptions, a forced fumble, 4 tackles for loss, hit the quarterback twice, 53 solo tackles. He had a solid ass year.
He does kind of fill up every little box there. And
he took one to the house.
Yeah.
And that's that thing we talked about, though, the system. He got so many people they can send him.
And he played 17 games,
all 17.
Anthony.
That's facts. He gave up 64.4% of the targets thrown at him, which but this is actually something that stuck out to me is how good offenses are this year, that a guy that's giving up like 60% of his passes is like really good. Like our number one corner in the league gave up 59.2% of the passes thrown his way. Like that's how fucking good offenses are nowadays. Like
it's insane, bro.
It's like you lose 6 out of 10 times. What a great job. Like that's why JC Jackson stuck out so crazy to me, like that, like on so many targets. But Micah Hyde, he definitely filled up the stat sheet in ways that I will admit that I actively did not give him enough credit for. Like, yeah, I just didn't give him enough credit for that. I'll be honest. I didn't
give enough shine because I feel like he's not the biggest focal point in that unit. Or no, Mike is. I'm talking about Jordan Poole. Like, I feel like Micah is a bigger point in that unit. Between Micah, I think it's Johnson. They have a slot corner. Be picking people. He's pretty nasty in the slot. I forget his name. I know his last name's Johnson. Okay. Light-skinned dude.
This is a pretty round list. I like this list. The corners are deep, man. Like, there are actually so many good corners and, like, relatively good safeties. Like, this was a much deeper list than I thought it was going to be. I thought this list was more competitive than the wide receivers.
I think with the safeties, I feel like it's easier because you get more statistics with the tackles and everything. At corner, you're kind of like, all right, well, you take into account what receivers do you see? You know, are you the corner that follows everybody? Are you the corner that you might not have that much comp? Do you have someone on the other side of you? That safety.
Yeah, they run from that. That's why Jaylen different.
Only a handful.
He was yelling at the receiver to stop running. Like.
Yeah. Well, no, hey, honestly, I think that's something they realize because like we said, Jalen's the one playing man. So it kind of throws off the whole zone if the man comes across and they don't communicate right away and then they just hike it.
Devontae Adams, you know what I mean? Ate that game. Oh, man. Oh, he did. Yeah, he different. Different.
That man I like this a lot. Bro.
Let's move into wrapping up here. We're at the hour mark. Shout out to everybody that's listening. We really appreciate y'all. Make sure wherever you're listening, you like, subscribe, drop a comment or whatever. Juice the fucking algorithm for your boys and help us out a little bit. I mean, that's the game, right? Like, and we really appreciate it. You can always contact us at the Fly Route Pod on like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. We respond to stuff. We like hearing what y'all think and trying to incorporate it back into the episodes.
Super active on Twitter.
Holla at us. We appreciate y'all so much, and we cannot wait to give you all episode 77 next week.
The Fly Route Pod. The Fly Route Pod. The Fly Route Pod. The Fly Route Pod.